afternoon, guys. Good to see everyone. And thank you, Herky, for arranging this. And hello, all. Good to see you. So, as we are running out of time, so I'll just quickly get into the questions. So, we are here to discuss challenges and opportunities women face in ascending to the senior positions. So, you all come from a very diverse background and a good background, and you come with a lot of experience. So I just want you guys to have a small insight on, give us an insight on how you handle such situations. So I'll just get into the first question directly. How can organizations more effectively identify and develop potential female leaders early in their careers? Zena, would you take this?
On? Okay, quite a bit to unpack there in terms of identifying and developing. So I represent Cargill, so I'm going to use some of the references from Cargill as experience. So I'll start off by saying that, sort of pivotal to what we do is, I think some of the previous panel also alluded to it, is being intentional, just being purposeful and intentional about what you want to do. And I think secondly, I would say that not be fixated on perfection. Right? Progress over perfection. It's never going to be easy. So just, I think, I would ask the audience as well to keep these two, attributes in mind while I discuss some of the examples. So I think we can start by saying that, really if you're being intentional, so I think really understanding what's your talent landscape? Yeah, what's the context in which you're operating? Right? Do I need to build, do I need to buy, or do I need to borrow? Right? For example, I'll take an example of our Phoebe plant, our food and bio plant in Krishnapatnam, because we're a food and agri company. When they set up the plant there, and they wanted to, build a workforce that was, inclusive, and from a gender diversity point of view, they realized that, the construct of the environment did not have that many people with that environment, with that kind of background, qualification. So what did they go out and do? So then they thought the next best thing would be to build through the community, so whether it was contractors. So start them off, they don't have that high level of qualification, but take them on as contractors, and through the course of the years, build them into, full-time FTE. So you're creating that channel, right? That's an example, I would say, about being intentional about, investing in the workforce that you want to build. The second thing example I would think about is also about setting targets and knowing where you want to play, right? So we have one of our operations in Bangalore, which is our business operations, which focuses on tech, finance, some of the other maybe unique skills like AI and creative studios. When that was expanding at a point, they realized that they don't have enough middle managers and middle leaders in the middle management. But they did already identify junior, women who were like quite, out there in terms of potential. When they had identified them, they said, okay, we've identified them already. Now we'll push them and, intentionally push them into these middle management roles where have come up for expansion. Now, that is somebody making a conscious choice, right? That is being intentional, and some leader stepping up to saying, I'm willing to do that. So I would actually add to Neha's slide to also have a sponsor. So you have allies, you have mentors, you have experts. I'll ask Neha to add one more box that says sponsor. Yeah, you need that sponsor to make that decision, to push that forward, to have the courage. So when they did that, and this is where the learning and, it's not about being perfect that comes in, because then they realized, okay, they've pushed all these people into middle management roles, but they don't know how to coach people. They don't know how to deal with, manage people, because they've never led people. So then creating those cohorts, creating these groups, so they created the iGrow program, they created a STEP program that was allowing peer-to-peer coaching. Then they realized some people needed some hard skills, some additional help, so they tied up with a with an MBA institute, a premier one in the country, and gave them an 18-month program. So I could go on. So again, being target-driven, being purposeful in that way. And I think finally I would say, really think about who your audience is and what do they need. So if they are like, somebody in the middle management, then what do I need for them? Or if they're at the senior management, what do I do for them? But it all starts with identifying early, right? And identifying early comes through many very simple mechanisms. So through the hiring process, do I identify a hypo there? Or do I identify during my performance reviews? And then something that we have and we do regularly every 3 months is a talent review. So again, being intentional there and saying that this is my talent, these are my hypos that I've identified, and this is what I want to do with them. Long answer to your first question,
but that was good. So as we all know, there are always barriers when a woman needs to be pushed. So what are the key barriers that still exist for women who wants to get a senior position, or how can we dismantle it? Aruna, I would be honored if you could answer this.
Sure, thanks, Isha. And many things that I say might turn out to be a repetition because I hear that in the earlier panel and to a lot of what you've said. So I'll put that disclaimer up in the front. So barriers, right? There's a long list, and I know we are on a timer. So I'll divide it into 2 aspects. One, of course, is the women themselves. So I'll start with all of us. And I believe it's the mindset change that we need to have. So if I was to rank order the top 3 mindset change that we require is, 1 is being a perfectionist, having the cake and eating it too, and finally putting up your hands even if you're not sure you can do it. So these are the top 3 ones, and then you can add on to the other mindset change that you believe you have as a woman. For me, these are the top 3. And I'll start with the one that says being a perfectionist, right? Society demands us to have multiple roles, and Indian culture talks about the 8 arms that a woman is supposed to have. Many a times it's not possible. It's okay to take support, and that's the courage that you require. So 8 arms are not our own, but the support system that we build both personally as well as professionally. So whether it's sponsorship, mentorship, or anything from a professional arena, right up to your parents, your, I should say siblings, your partners, and so on and so forth. So those are all of them comprise your 8 arms, so that's something we should take into consideration. The second one, of course, is, having it all. There are times in our life where we have to take a decision, and there are certain steps we have to take, and it's okay to take it. And it's okay to come back as well. So I'm a returning mom. I came back in 2010, and here I am in 2024 after 8 years of break. So that says it all. So you have to decide what it is that you really want. You can't have it all. And does that mean that you have to take a break if you're going the parenthood way? Then the answer is no. It depends upon the circumstances we all are in. So make a choice and make a deliberate one. That's what I would say. And the last one, of course, is the fact of raising your hands, right? And now in the adaptive world, or rather the disruptive world that we are living in, we all have to be adaptive. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And Gen AI is something that's there in foray for us. Do I know it? The answer is no. Do I want it? The answer is yes. So raising your hands in spite of not knowing the fact that you have folks who are going to support you is what I would say. So that's the mindset shift from the woman end. The second is, of course, the firm's end. Are we making inclusion a deliberate attempt? Like you said, it should be intentional. Are we giving that equity and that leg space to women, whether it's through sponsorship, mentorship, or any other skill development program? Are we giving that extra push to them? That's the question we need to ask ourselves as a firm. So I can thankfully say I work in a firm that's a great place to work for women.
That's nice. So now as we are talking about mentorship and sponsorship, anything which is, Hina, I would ask you this, any programs or sponsorship of mentorship that your organization is helping out for women, if you could just highlight.
Yeah, definitely. First, I want to start with congratulating Herky for this event. I think it's wonderful. Neha and her team are doing a very, very good job in this space. To answer your question, now we are doing this little initiative, and it's quite different because it's not your typical mentorship program. All of you have heard of reverse engineering, correct, and projects that we do. What we did is reverse mentorship. So what we did is have the doers in our organization, so the people who are actually getting their hands dirty and working, they are the ones who are getting the job done. So they know the latest technology and they know what's going on in the market, the trends and everything. Then we get our leaders, all right, and we put them in the same room and say, all right, cool. Let's start with you telling us what's the latest trends. Because sometimes I feel as leaders, we lose that track somewhere. We are, you know, we're reading up on a lot of stuff. I don't know how much of that are we absorbing and actually putting it into play. Having terms used as AI and ML, sometimes we use it quite loosely, you know, because we feel like, oh, you know, probably if I use that, I may just make an impact in some way. But with this reverse engineer, rather the reverse mentoring program, the youngsters are coming and telling our leaders, you know, this is what we need to do. So there's a forum that can hear them out. And I thought it worked wonderfully well because the leaders itself are also guiding them. So the platform is given to them to be equal. That is a gap that we bridge. So one of the initiatives that we took here.
That's great, that's great. Sarika, would you put some in that?
So I'm not a stepney for Preeti, first of all. I'm a great proponent of mentoring, and I think our organization got an award for mentoring. That's how perhaps Neha vouched for me, and I said fine. So mentoring, see, I have been with Birlas for the last 8.5 years, and before that I was with John Deere, and I have high respect for that organization because whatever, you know, concepts I have today, I owe to that organization. So high respect for them, and I actually propagated the same.
And high respect for you to say that.
So in fact, I was hired by Mr. Birla just for mentoring because, and then he was not sure that I would join leaving John Deere because women don't leave John Deere basically. But then I am a I am a person who deliberately disturbs the present because I like challenges. More than the other competencies, I am adept in disaster management, I would say. I don't like very comfortable things. So anyway, so mentoring, when I came to Birlasoft, I said, see, there is a program in place which is called Rise and Lead. And it was for high potential women, okay? Polishing their strengths. First of all, I said, don't call it, you know, weaknesses. And I think now everybody knows this. Nobody calls that weaknesses, but the areas of development. And then pick up top 3 strengths, right? And polish them. Polish them so that they shine, you know? Give the feedback in a way which is modifiable. Just don't give the feedback for the sake of giving it, right? So that Rise and Lead signified many competencies, you know. The imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is for everybody, but women, they face it a lot, right? So self-limiting beliefs, right? Strategic thinking. So one, 1-year program for them, followed by, so it was happening. And I don't believe just in a program and then leave it and then see what are the success indicators, how many got retained, how many got promoted, etc. Right? I said there has to be a teach back, right? Because we are investing a lot in you. And believe me, this I really personally believe, rather than having discrete programs, learning programs, if we have teach backs in an organization, right? If we propagate the culture of mentoring in a true way, whatever you have learned now, it is your responsibility to teach back. That becomes a great way. So I said, okay, now these 35 women who graduated, now they will have to do a session, not one session, they will have to have a mentorship program. So two-faced. One, these 35 women, those who got graduated, we put them into mentorship program. So senior DEI council members, including myself, other CXOs, etc., etc., we formulated a very nice mentor-mentee guide, and I just borrowed it from John Deere because I had made it, right? So I just did it, and I gave it to them. I did the orientation session, and then we said 6 to 8 interactions, and you have to see what you have learned from it. And few people, they gave back in the terms of presentations. One, they got mentored after doing that graduation. Second, they became mentors for a layer below. So we call this program called Unplugged. Unplugged is for senior women. There is a program called Connect Up. So this is a group mentoring platform. So like other people were talking about catch-ups and all. So we have formalized this. Another platform is Rendezvous with Verve. And personally, if you ask me, I normally challenge 90% of the herd mentality. And I'm called a revolutionary. Nobody accepts me easily. It's very hard to live with me. So I said that, you need to really carve the path in a way. Then I don't believe in a Women's Day because it itself is signifying a discrimination, correct? So I said, let's have a forum called Rendezvous with Verve. I have called it Rendezvous with Verve. We call men, women, all the genders, because we talk about PWDs, we talk about LGBTQs. We talk about nuances of diversity there, right? We talk about unconscious bias, which is critical, what you people said in the beginning, right? Maternity returnship program is what we are propagating, and that we say it very, very clearly to these managers, and I can go on and I'll stop. I know the time, you have that stipulated frame of time. But one thing is my favorite. I say to everybody on a hilarious note, don't give flowers to a person who is allergic to it, okay? And don't think that you want to be treated like this, so I want to be treated like this. Treat me as I want to be treated, right? So we have to think in that way. So these assumptions about a woman who is returning from maternity, she will require comfort, she will not travel, right? These are assumptions. Ask her first whether she wants or not. So on such sensitive topics, we do mentoring. In John Deere, you will not believe we used to mentor the spouses of these women who used to stop them. And honestly, I had to really stop myself sometimes to become aggressive. Because these women also, they have a narrative. You know what? I got supported by my husband or my father. That's okay. I respect them. But, and I wrote one slogan on the cup. Reason for the success for a woman is herself. And somebody in the family said, how feminist? I said, think again before you speak, right? It is you, because we keep on giving these kind of credits to others. We never take the credit on our own, right? So yeah, many stories like this, but yes, this I wanted to mention.
That was wonderful. So Aruna, a question for you. What initiatives have proven that most effective in your organization for promoting women into leadership roles?
All right, so maybe I'll give a context first. So Deloitte believes that inclusion and inclusive leadership, if I can call that, it's a deliberate attempt. So it has to be intentionally done. And it's not just about being nice. So we had done a research way back in 2017, 5 long years, over 10,000 leaders across the globe, which spoke about the fact that diversity and inclusion is very important to the business. And the outcome of that research was that having diverse teams leads to 6 times more innovation, 6 times more agile organization, 3 times more high-performing teams, and 2 times the business growth that you're expecting. So this is a hard fact. It's no longer fuzzy. Having diversity, gender, and otherwise is only going to help the business case. So it's no longer a talent imperative, it's a business imperative. So that's the background to what we do. Right from mentoring, sponsorship, returning mothers to skill development, whether it be for junior women professionals, mid-level high potential women, or the senior women who have been identified into leadership roles. So we cut across all of those segments. At the junior women professional level, of course, the focus is on skill development. Interestingly, we also have a reverse mentoring program where STEM professionals, not just women, but any STEM professional would be aligned to an EXCO member. And the whole idea is to teach the seniors what's happening in the technology space. So it's a very focused program on reverse mentoring that we do. But coming back to what we do from an inclusion and diversity per se, so it's skill development when it comes to junior professionals. We have seen in our organization, and any other professional services organization can relate to this, we lose most of our women when they come to the mid-level, because that's where the big decisions of life happen, whether it's marriage, family, caregiving, requirements, going the family way, and so on and so forth. And professional services are slightly different from the industry. It's an expectation that we are the experts and we advise the industry, so you can just imagine the responsibility we have. So it's not easy. Definitely work-life balance is something that each one has to decide how it is for them. So we have seen that women professionals leave us either to carry on with their personal affairs, or for that matter go back to the industry. So that's the high potential space where we have focused on high potential women, which is all about developing them and showing them the pathway within the organization. So that's the focus area for the mid-level professionals. And finally, of course, the senior levels. We truly believe that we will have leaders from within, and most professional services firms promote that leadership from within. So that's where the sponsorship program, the tie-ups with any of the premier institutes that we have under the MDP umbrella, all of that come into play in that particular segment. So that's what a couple of things I should say. And since returning mom is the theme, and obviously I have a personal connect there, we have a returning mom entire program as well. In fact, what we have is baby steps. We call it baby steps. And there, all the to-be parents, both the genders, are a part of that community. And that community cuts across not just skill development, but also any sort of counseling, any requirement. So it's a community of practice for the to-be parents, both the genders. And it's the whole journey that they take right from month one, right up to, say, the next year, or till the baby is a year, and so on and so forth. So that major umbrella is where we work in, and the returning mom program come as a part of that larger baby steps program as well. So that's where we are.
That's nice, that's nice. So here we can see all young HRs, I believe all are young. So Hina, I would like to know what is the advice that you give to the young women, and what do you think should aspire to reach the leadership positions? There are any specific skills or experience, or what is that? Would you give a tip to the young ones?
Honestly, whatever I tell and I feel like I'm still young, let's keep it that way. But if I had to give sort of advice to the younger generation, I think I'd be wrong in giving them advice. I'll tell you why. Because when I speak to them, I'm learning so much more than
yes, I agree on this too.
I feel like, I wish I was born in this time, because there's so much, the
Aruna
technology.
is laughing, she also wished the same thing.
So, it's unfair to say that, as leaders, we know everything. Yeah, we've got our paths. We've taken that route to come here. We've got our struggles. If I had to share, I'd share my struggles with them rather than advise them, because they exactly know where they're headed. I mean, you speak to a 19-year-old, they basically know what's their next move, where they're headed, what's their career going to look like. So I think in that perspective, we can only share experiences with them, because we have that. That's the wealth that we've carried so far in our journey. But if we were supposed to take the route of telling them that, what, I think you should go ahead and upskill yourself in this particular technology or that particular technology, I don't think we're equipped for that. They are far more equipped than us.
I agree. I totally agree on that. So, can you share something, some personal experience or challenge you faced on your path of your leadership, Sarika?
So I think the thing what we propagate and that has personally struck me for so many years, I don't know how many people really understand the difference between equity and equality in the right way. If you have to see this bottle and this glass, right? So we say that these are, just beside each other, and we have given the normal, a kind of same parity to them. But it's not the case. This is a little dwarf than this bottle. So you need to give a little stare, right? So in the thing, what I was telling, Rendezvous with Verve, we are propagating this. If you ask me, my personal challenge, that is related to the maternity thing. That time I have a 15-year-old daughter, and that time there was a 3 months maternity break, and I used to that time work in a very conservative organization. So, and what happened was that as soon as I gave birth to my child, my husband was detected with cancer. So he was parallelly, having this operation for cancer. Luckily, fortunately, he's okay now. But I went back in the 4th month. The organization was assuming Sarika is not going to come back. So it was not for the sake of money that time. I very strictly say this to all women in my counseling sessions, that don't break your momentum. Though I'm not against taking a break, even a man can take a break if you want. If you want to rejuvenate yourself, please take a break, right? Anybody can take a break. But for women especially, because when we talk of maternity returnship, as you were saying, phase-wise, we have put a Connect Up program in place, and we keep on talking to them. So stay connected. So I just went back, and I just have broken that glass ceiling there, and have broken the assumptions there. That fear of missing out was so much that time that I wanted to contribute with a double zeal, right? That is why I was categorically talking about not to make assumptions, right? And when you're talking about challenges, right? See, I have also worked in one of the companies, I will not name it. That's also a Birla Group company. See, there's a word called mentorupting. Okay? I am sure you all know it. And I was the only leader in that room. I have never ever thought whether this is a man or a woman. I don't even bother about it. I'm just talking to a person. And once upon a time I said that a leader is a culmination of 2 kinds of traits. If we say assertion, maybe men have those innate abilities, right? And a woman, a lot of empathy, compassion. So culmination of it makes a great leader, right? So I was being interrupted number of times. Let me tell you. And I don't know if you have seen that movie called Gunjan Saxena. I sometimes felt like that. Believe me when I'm saying this. I cried, but I didn't give up. And they had to accept me. And when I was taking the transfer to some other organization of Birlas, they said, Sarika, we love you for the originality and authenticity you had, right? You didn't give up on that. I kept on saying, I was not aggressive. See, I'm also a trainer. So, unconscious bias, I train myself. Being a DEI head, honestly, I'm very attached to that piece of module. I take it myself. So, few people called it aggression. I said, why these men are not being questioned if they are speaking in the same tone as I? Why are you not questioning this person, right? I questioned the CEO, and he had no answer. One day, he was going on a leave, right? This is a story I'm telling you. And something had come up, and he actually, said, Sarika, no, there are no success indicators of this intervention, etc., etc. And I was taken aback because that was a beautiful intervention. I understood there is something, wrong happening in his head. Then he gave me a comment, Sarika, you know what? I could have taken this up, and I went to his room and I talked up front. He said, Sarika, I would have appreciated if you would have talked to me after 10 days when I'm back. I said, sir, and we used to call them sir in that organization. Here it is neutral. I said, sir, this is the difference between you and me. I don't want you to carry this heaviness while you are going on your, PTO, personal time off. And I also don't want to carry this jitteriness in me, right? Because I want to enhance the camaraderie between you and me. He had no words. And he loves me like anything. Okay? So when I was leaving, he had this comment, Sarika, now is the time my camaraderie is at the peak and now I am leaving. I said, I leave when the things are at high. Thank you.
That was sweet. Hina, you want to add something?
I actually do have to add something because there's this experience. I've worked across geographies and I had the pleasure of doing that. So I don't know how many of you are married here. Can you just show me, raise your hands and show me? Okay, good, great. There are a lot of people. You understand what a marriage does to you. First, you are the single person having a lot of fun, taking your own decisions. When marriage comes into play, I think, I don't want to use the word compromise, but I will because that's what it is at the end of the day. You have to balance that out. I know we're running out of time. It's just going to take 2 minutes. Like Khalid did. So I think if you give Khalid 2 minutes, you can give me 2 minutes. Okay, thank you. I got married when I was quite young. I got married to the love of my life, thankfully. And so we had that balance within us. But then with that, like I said, it comes that balance that you have to support the other person when the person needs it. That's when your marriage can be successful. My husband got an opportunity to move to New Zealand, okay? And I was at my mid-management at that point in time. I got a very good break with a startup. The startup actually flew, it didn't crash. So I was very lucky in that perspective. And with that, I grew at a very young age. And I thought I'm going to take my retirement here. And this is where I'm at. And I'm very happy because I know the leadership. I'm very comfortable with the business. He gave me this news. And I'm like, okay then, because I'm at this place in my career that I want to just stay. He's like, okay, I leave it up to you, but I'm leaving. And, that was an eye-opener. I said, no, I'm following you. I'm coming. So I put in my resignation. I move ahead. Chapter 2, I moved to New Zealand. I go there, I'm like, I'm going to get a job very easily. I've done my studies. I know my HR really well and everything. I'll get it very easily. To my surprise, 9 months was pathetic. Absolutely. I used to just roam the streets looking at New Zealand. It's very beautiful. It's a lot of sheep, very less people. But I explored the place and all. But at the same time, I realized that, I need to somehow get in. I wanted to work because I didn't want to sit idle. I think that was what I wanted to get back to what I was doing. And during this time, I studied up, upgraded myself, did the certifications. I started from scratch again. I literally started as an HR executive after leaving as a senior manager HR. So it brought me down mentally a bit. But then I said, who's looking? Who are these people we talk about who are judging me here? Nobody. Nobody's judging me. So let me start. It took me 3 years, but actually not 3 years. It took me about 5 years. But when I left New Zealand, I got a very good break with Canon. I left from their senior leadership team. That's when I left New Zealand. So that was a successful stint. So what I'm trying to tell you is, don't get disheartened if you fall or if you come down. There's always anything that goes down is going to come up. It's regardless of men or women, But if you have to make that choice, please go ahead and do it and see where life takes you. So that was one thing that I overcame.
I actually can relate to this. Thank you so much.
You cannot.
Yeah, because even I left my job in the peak of my career just to be with my husband who doesn't want to come back to India. So I had to go over there. But then, as you said, I came back also. And now I'm working over here with Fermion Infotech, where I'm the CHRO. So yes, it is truly
exactly. It's life, right? I mean, I worked with the likes of...
I don't regret also, but yeah, that you can say that taught me many things, that upgraded me that time. So yes, I have no regrets on that.
Exactly, because sometimes you just got to take that step. I worked with Facebook, I worked with Canon. Things happened, and
things happen when it has to happen.
It has to happen. Yeah. Just go with the flow.
Go with the flow, yeah, right.
Thank you, ladies, for inspiring us. Let's have a round of applause for such dynamic women, power women. Thank you for being with us, ladies.